Well, welcome to the Black Financial Channel on drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. We are Black and intelligent, and we don't apologize for that. And today we have a great chance to talk about what some might call broke acidness. I've heard that term used before to describe brothers that aren't quite doing so well financially, and what it's like to struggle through a relationship as a woman when a man is not where he wants to be economically. And so as you come in, please hit the thumbs up button, share button, subscribe button. Also, don't forget on this platform, we are Black first. We put our community first. We solve our problems first. We know that if we don't do it, it won't get done. And so if you agree with that philosophy that we can build on our own, we can do anything that anybody else can do, put a hashtag B1 in the chat, hashtag B1 in the chat, and also shout out the city that you're from. And I see Yolanda and Pamela and Erica Daniel and a whole lot of folks that are in here right now. And Brother Man, what's going on? Brother Man was first, actually. And I see Universe Trip. Good. Brother Man's here. Well, it's good because I think that the men, we need to listen to the women. Definitely need to hear what the women have to say. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to introduce the guests and let them do most of the talking. So my first guest is Miss Constance Carter, who is the founder and CEO of Catalyst Real Estate. And she has that slogan, nobody works harder than Constance. Is that right?
Nobody works harder than Constance Carter.
Nobody works harder than Constance Carter. I love that, and I agree. And Miss Adrienne Treese, who's the CEO and founder of DNA Financial. How you doing today, Adrienne?
I'm extraordinary. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. And we also have Miss Ronique West, who is the president of the Greater Augusta Black Chamber of Commerce. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
All right. And last but certainly not least, we have Miss Rebecca Samuel, CPA, who is the founder and CEO of Pythagoras LLC, an accounting firm out of DC. How you doing today, Rebecca?
Doing amazing. It's been 4 years, boys. We've been together 4 years.
I know. Oh my God, that's so crazy. Yeah, we've been working together, and your work is so good. I didn't know it's been 4 years though. It's so crazy the time goes by that fast. But yeah, I'll tell you what. You are a professional, and I just respect that so much. And so let's just jump right into it. So I was reading this article. Taryn, who's the producer that puts together our panels for us, sent me an article in the New York Post. And what they've said, and this is not a Black specific thing, they said that, and I'm actually going to share my screen so y'all can see this. Basically, according to the New York Post, there's an issue with the supply of marriable men. They said broke men are hurting American marriage prospects. And you can see that there's an image of the guy who's got no money in his pocket and looks like he lives in his mama's basement. And basically what they're saying in this article is that that because of the changes in the economy and because of the changes in male economic status, there have been fewer men available for women to marry. And they're not making this sort of race specific. They're actually saying this is true, across the board. I'd be curious. Let me start with you, Miss Adrienne, since you are the special guest. You're the only person here that I didn't know before today, but I'm very happy to meet you. Have you noticed that at all among maybe talking to your friends and things like that?
I have noticed that, and I'm also in the world of taxes, so I get to see income all the time. I've been in this game for 9 years, and I have noticed in the last maybe three to 5 years that there has been a stagnant increase in the way that men and women make money, but specifically men. There is a little bit of difficulty in terms of economic status and seeing what I call viable income. So I would agree. Yes, that's the feedback out there.
Okay, so I'd like to ask you this, Miss Constance Carter. There some would say, like a skeptic might say something like, "Well, this is one of the flaws of feminism that." When women and men are competing for the same jobs and earning the same incomes, or close to it, right? But we know that women actually earn less for the same job than men. But apparently the way they're describing it is that it's getting to the point where women are kind of just doing their thing. Well, that's going to naturally seem to mean that you're going to have some people that are going to lose in that contest. Do you think that's a valid argument to say this is what happens when you got all the women out working and competing with men for the jobs? Now the men don't have jobs. Now they can't get married because the women are the ones, it seems to me, that are looking for the partner to have a certain income level. The men I talk to don't care. Most of the men I know don't care how much money their woman makes, but women seem to be really sensitive to that. What do you think? What would you say in response to that argument?
You know, most of the women that I know that are in my circle, they make more than their men. That's just like a common fact for everyone that I know. And then I was talking to a brother out in the DMV area, and he was saying that, you know, that's not the case where he is. But like everybody I know, everywhere, all over the country, I want to say 80 to 90% of the women make more than their husbands or their partners. So I think that I mean, being in the field, I work, you know, Black women especially are the most educated segment of society. So I think that's going to be a natural progression. I don't think it has to be a competition. I think you all, you know, everyone could come together. We're all contributing. We all have the same goal. So for me, it absolutely doesn't matter. You know, most men with the bracket of income that I'm in, most men aren't going to make as much as me. It's really about the broke mindset. So I don't care how much you make. I care about where your mind is focused. You know, what direction you're going into. Can you manage the money correctly and properly? Can you help invest? Can you add to in other ways? So I think that a lot of these women need to get out of that thinking that they think that they need a man that makes more than them, and look at the holistic approach around what is their mindset around money. That's what's really important.
Interesting. So do you think, Ronique, that it's you know, when you talk about that, I know that there are times where like I'll say to Alicia, I'll say, come on, babe, let's do something online. Let's do a video or something. And she'll say, I can't do a video now. I'll be like, why? She'll be like, because my hair looks terrible and I got to do my makeup. And I'll be like, I don't care about that. Like, well, you know, you look fine. What are you talking about? And she'll say, no, I look terrible. And what basically the point I'm getting at is that there are things that she cares about that I don't really care that much about. I might think she's gorgeous, but it doesn't matter if I think she's gorgeous if she doesn't think she's gorgeous. So do you think that could also be applicable here? I think what Constance is saying is that she doesn't care how much money a man makes. It's his mindset. But I would say, I guess I'm the representative of all men right now. I don't know. But I would say that, you know, sometimes it's not so much about how you feel about us. It's how we feel about ourselves. I know that when I made more money, I naturally just felt more economically confident in a lot of areas. I don't know why. You just do. You don't want to feel like a loser. Do you think? How do we factor that in? You know, and help a person get past some of that? I don't know. I don't know if that's doable. What do you think?
Well, I think it is important that a man has reached whatever goals that they have for themselves to be confident in a relationship. Because what I've experienced and what I hear a lot of my friends experience is that if the man has not reached their goals, sometimes they have less confidence mentally. Not necessarily that they would make like what maybe a high earning woman would make or what a woman's doing that has multiple businesses or whatever. Is just more of, have they reached what they feel like they need to reach in life? And that kind of helps with their mindset is what I've noticed. Now, I also feel like the upbringing is big. I've lived in 3 different states, and I can tell you dating in 3 different states is completely different. And I noticed that it's from how they were raised and their upbringing as well.
Interesting. So how they were raised in their upbringing. Rebecca, I think I heard you on a panel one time talk about, you know, how we raise our sons, and you had expressed some concern about the way boys are being raised, and it's particularly in America, and if that is being done, you know, in a way that is conducive to building good families. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit? You know, are we raising our sons right? If not, then what do we got to change?
You know, I really feel like we coddle our boys. Unfortunately, we're hard on our girls. We coddle our boys. And then when the women grow up, they're motivated. They're out there. They're getting it. They're trying to put the pieces together because they want to make sure that she's contributing to the household as well, in addition to what she's going to do, being a mother of your kids and everything else like that. But for example, I don't really see us raising our sons to say, hey, I want to grow up to be a provider and a husband of a family. Like, I think marriage is taboo talking to little boys, and to little girls, that's the dream that's kind of forced down our throats. So when, as adults, women are like, hey, all right, I did everything I was supposed to do. I'm ready to get married now. And the guys are like, where are they? Where are they to be found? And that's kind of like, what are we going to do? We have to make sure that we're taking care of both our boys and our girls, so that when they grow up, these are the people that are getting together to creating the families to continue our legacies in the future.
Interesting. Well, everybody, in case you just came in, we have an awesome panel of really smart Black women who are helping us to figure out what's going on with with relationships, particularly as it pertains to money. What are the struggles of dealing with the fact that some men may not be where they need to be economically? If you haven't done it yet, please hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. And so it looks like a special lady that I happen to know just walked in the building, Dr. Alicia. She's a licensed therapist, a licensed couples therapist, and a full professor of social work. And I'm sure that she has a lot to say on this topic. So, Dr. Alicia, you've heard some of what the panelists have said.
Well, I heard a little bit, not much.
Okay. Well, what about, in terms of the topic, the struggles, the challenges of dealing with a man that doesn't have a lot of money. Do you think women struggle with that? And if so, why? And and how do you work around that?
Well, I'm just wondering if instead of looking at it in terms of money, maybe we should look at it in terms of having similar values as the man that we're dating. So, if you have similar education level, if you have a similar understanding about life, if you have similar upbringing, then in those cases, you're going to have a similar outlook on money, And so I'm just curious about, because Boyce, you're the only man on the panel. I'm just curious about, why do you think that a man needs to make a certain amount of money in order to be worthy of love? Why does money need to be tied to a man's worth in terms of a partner and in terms of being with someone that they love? What is that about? I wish there was another guy on this panel to answer that.
I've always felt that I was raised to believe that you earn what you get. And if you don't earn it, you don't have a right to demand it. And so to me, when I didn't have any money, I didn't like being financially insecure. It wasn't fun for me. And to me, a great concern was the idea of bringing other people into my financial insecurity, which would only heighten the amount of stress that we all felt. Now, I had female friends that would say, well, no, you get married while you're broke and then you can build together. But I didn't want to build together. To me, that almost felt like being in the Vietnam War and taking your spouse with you to the jungles of Vietnam to fight a battle. No, you leave everything at home so you can go fight. And then after you're done and you're a decorated soldier, then you come home and you get married. And that was my mindset. Now, I don't know if that's the right mindset. I just know that there are a lot of guys who feel the same way, that if they're not feeling secure and comfortable economically, they're just like, no. And I almost compare it to maybe if you think about sex, men are usually ready to rock and roll, ready to go. And women have their moods as well. But there could be times where she says, I just don't feel pretty right now, or I have a headache, or I just don't feel sexy. Right. And you're like, but you are sexy. But if she doesn't feel sexy, then nothing's going to happen in a lot of cases because she's got to work through that. So that's what I see. I think a lot of men just don't feel sexy enough for marriage, if that means anything. I'd like to go to Miss Treese again and ask you. I'm not even going to ask you a question because you're smart and you probably have some thoughts based on what we've talked about. What do you think? Jump right in and throw something out there that based on what you've heard so far.
Yeah, I really like what Constance said about the mindset. That is super, super important. I've gone on a dating binge. I'm a divorcee. I have 3 sons, 22, 20, and 13, almost 13. And so I would say mindset is important. On my dating binge, what I found is the way that a man relates to money will come out in his language. So maybe he will use words like broke or that's too expensive. And that could be an indicator from my point of view, like what is his relationship? In my mind, money is an energy. It's a reflection of maybe you've done A, B, and C. Maybe you've gone through what I call the recoding in terms of your relationship with it. As a business owner, I've had to go through that. So I honestly think a relationship with money and as the doctor said, the value of it. So I think those are the type of things that in the world of dating, and if you're looking for a significant other, what is their value with it and how do they view it energetically? Because you can call anything into your space. Money's no different from love. Money's no different from health. In my mind, it's energy, right? So that's my philosophy with it. I know I feel better when there's X amount of dollars in my account versus not having anything, y'all. I can make more moves with that. And I'm quite sure male counterparts might feel the same way.
Well, that's a good one then. So let me ask Constance, Miss Constance Carter, if you had 2 men that you were choosing from that were equal in every way, and one was clearing six figures, and the other one, greeted you every day in a Burger King uniform, would that make a difference at all? Would you be able to just look past that?
Yes. It makes a difference. That definitely.
Okay, tell me why. Why does that make a difference for you?
I mean, if all things being equal, except for what they did for a living, then I'm going to go with the person who was more established. But to your point, what you were talking about earlier, I had been with my husband since I was 15, and we had been together. Got married, had a baby, bought our first house together, built, and I was the primary wage earner. Like I went out there and caught the fish, brought it home, cooked it, and that was our dynamic, and that was no problem with me. Everything was ours. It wasn't mine. It was us. I never made him feel like he wasn't an equal contributor. Well, now we're no longer together, and so now as I'm out there looking at people, it's going to be a totally different thing at 44 than when I was 22 when I got married, as when I was 15 when I got with him. It's going to be a totally different approach to me finding somebody. I'm not going to be looking for anyone who wants to kind of just support me and not have his own income. I'm going to want somebody else who's more independent, who at this age, who has his own same mindset, same values as Dr. Alicia said, but they're going to at this age, at 44 years old, you need to have your own.
Okay.
Doesn't necessarily mean that they need to make as much money as me. That's not it. They just need to, have the same value system. That's all.
Okay, so I'll be curious to ask the panelists. Does anybody have any crazy, interesting stories to share about times where you maybe run into odd behavior on the part of a man as a result of his financial situation? Maybe he was insecure, because all of you are really okay. I see Rebecca threw her hands up quick. Yeah, you're all powerful women, and you're kicking butt and taking names. Not every man is comfortable with that. Rebecca, tell us about your experience.
Dating stories upon. Okay, for example, I live in the DMV. In this area, a lot of people make a lot of money. This is a six-figure area, right? But for whatever reason, I kept coming across men that had these very high titles like IT and all this other stuff. But when we would go on a date, the check would come and he asked me, so I'm expecting him to pay for it. And he's like, oh, well, I did this thing where my car's shut off right now. Do you think you could cover this? And I'm over here like,
yikes. Ooh, ouch.
First and last date,
of course. But I'm finding that happening a lot. And, now that I have my business has grown to the point where, okay, I'm doing very well. But dating wise, it's like it's not translating for me, and I'm not really too sure why. So at this point, I just kind of back off of it, and I'm just like, whatever's going to happen, I'm just let it happen, because it's crazy financially what I'm seeing out here dating.
Interesting. Wow. That's a tough one. It almost seems though. So Ronique, it seems to me like it's not just about how much money the person has. It's just about sort of basic expectations of decent behavior. Like the idea of going on the date and expecting Rebecca to pay obviously means they had different expectations of this date. And so I think that leads to a question about whether or not any of this has to do with people just being confused. If people, if you hear, I'm the representative male on the panel, I guess. So I'll say this. I hear a lot of messages about, equality, gender equality. In fact, I hear messages that say that if a man wakes up on a Tuesday and wants to be a woman by Thursday and go and join the women's boxing league, he can do that, right? They just signed that into law. So it's almost like, okay, gender is a figment of your imagination. There's no, anything that you want to do that specifically, something a man does, it could be defined as sexist or toxic masculinity. So maybe there are some men who believe that stuff, right? I'm gonna tell you the truth, Ronique. I'll look at your thoughts on this. I literally got about maybe 28, and I realized that a lot of what I've been trained to believe was stupid. I had been trained to believe stupid things like, if a woman likes you, she can ask you out just like you'd ask her out. So you know what I did when I first met Alicia? I did not ask her out because I did not want to be a predator. I didn't want to be seen as a creepy man, right? So I sat there, because I was like, well, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be rude, right? But then I learned, I said, you know what? This is stupid. To hell with political correctness. I believe that a lot of women want a man to be a man. And that whatever that comes with what Rodney, give me your thoughts on that.
Definitely. I think a woman, regardless of whatever title we have outside of ourselves, because it's just the title, and the title can change. You know, our what we're doing at that time can change. It evolves, whatever. We're always evolving. Just always remember that I'm a woman. So it's very important that you're the man in the relationship, whatever that may be for me. You know, you have to let me feel like I'm the woman in our exchange. That is very huge. And I think men's, if they're subconscious, if they're not confident in themselves, then how are you going to put me in my woman mode? You're going to keep me in my more masculine mode, in my boss mode, if I don't feel like I can let my hair down with you, if I can't relax with you, if I feel like I can't trust you to do whatever it may be, then that's a lot of the issues I think sometimes that come up when we think about, okay, we need to have a higher earning man. And then on top of that, I kind of want to go back to what Constance said and ask the question of the panel. Now, this may cause a little rift, but I have more women that are married than single that I'm actually connected to, that I'm really close with. But one thing that we've all been talking about, especially since we've gotten, over 40 or whatever, my daughter's 27, and I'm 43. And so what we have noticed is that it seems like we have been trained as women to kind of be super women and take on too much, especially here in America. And in a way to where I know I was talking to someone the other day and they were saying that sometimes you have to just learn how to let go, because if the man feels like there's nothing to be done, they won't do it. They won't double the effort. So because we can do so much or whatever, I think sometimes that is part of the relationship thing, of the dynamic that we're fighting with in America. So I don't know, I'm getting feedback, I'm sorry, here in America. But I just wonder, how do the other panelists feel? Do you feel like we have been trained more as women to take on more here, especially Black women? I just wonder, is that the dynamic? And then that's where we're having that disconnect as men and women, so that when we're dating now at this stage, we're having a hard time finding mates or having compatible relationships.
You know what? Ladies, hold on. You're going to hear a lot of crazy noise because my computer is acting crazy. I apologize for that. Hold on. This is going to seem a little weird. Hold on.
We can't hear you.
Now you mute.
No.
Mute it. Mute it.
Let me bring myself back in.
There's two of you now. That's what's causing the feedback.
Yeah. I'll explain that in a moment. Hold on.
Oh, he wants us to continue while.
Okay. So yeah, I asked that question of panelists, and so if you guys would go ahead and ask for me, it doesn't matter, Dr. Alicia, Adrian, whoever.
I think
I know. Oh, sorry.
Just because at the end of the day, we're mothers, or well, many of us, not saying all of us are, but I know I came from a part where I used to work 2 to 3 jobs, going to school full time, taking care of a child, and doing all of this stuff to get my life moving forward. And I didn't have the help that I needed from a quote unquote partner. And I'm also divorced myself. And even when I was married, that I did not receive the support that I thought I was going to receive. I was the breadwinner. I was paying all the bills. And it's just like, after a while, you kind of say like, wow, I'm doing all of this stuff. What is my partner doing? What is my partner bringing to the table? Why am I doing everything? So I agree with you.
I also agree. Again, mom of 3 sons. I was married for over a decade, in my 40s, degreed, taking them to the sports. I did have support, but it seems as if we get into this role where, we're doing it. We're bossing at work, right? We're bossing at home. And completely, that's been my lifestyle. And I'm coming to understand about this feminine energy that I need to call into. And I've been way too masculine. We are groomed to be way too masculine. So I think that's where that disconnect is. When we do find someone, I need a masculine man or someone who's more masculine than me, so I can default into my feminine energy completely.
I love it.
Yeah. Dr. Alicia, was you going to say something? I see you shaking your head.
No, I was just going to say, like, I think like underneath a lot of it is the
Mhm.
security and the feelings of fear, and how emotions are very much connected to money, and it is a power differential. So even if you're in a relationship with someone and they have way more money than you do, and sometimes you can come into it and you can feel really insecure. You can feel like you don't really deserve to be in that relationship because you don't have as much money as that person. So maybe you feel like you don't have much of a say so. And particularly for Black women, when we talked about, we come into our relationship with a significant other with an existing relationship we have, and that's the relationship that we have with money. And that comes with our childhoods. Like, did we grow up in a family where, the lights were cut off and because we didn't have enough money, and you're carrying that fear and sense of insecurity into that relationship? Sometimes you can earn a lot of money and have enough money to pay all the bills and everything will be fine, but you still have that memory in your head of when you were a child and we weren't tying ends. And so you can come, and even though there's enough money, you can still have that fear that's underlying with are we going to have enough money in the future? And so these things need to be talked about if you're in a relationship, and you really do need to treat your relationship like you treat a business. Like if you're married, it doesn't matter who makes money. You can make more money than I do. And, in terms of marriage, it's all together. In the eyes of the law, you and your spouse, whatever you and your spouse makes, it's both of you all together. And so you need to deal with that like you would a business, and really talk about finances and be willing to talk about how much debt you have. I see couples all the time, and it's very surprising how one partner would go and borrow a ton of money or buy a car and borrow money and not even notify their other spouse that they're doing that. And so those sort of like deceptions in terms of money, in my practice, it is really, I would say, deception related to money issues is harder for a marriage to get over than deception related to infidelity.
Wow.
Interesting.
In my practice, like it really hits you to the core, because it's almost like, okay, so he was with someone else, but I know he was taking care of me financially, and that still made you feel secure. But financial infidelity is something I spend a lot of time trying to sort through, because it's built up resentment that happens in marriages, and it really can destroy a relationship.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm back now. So sorry about the technical difficulties. Literally, my laptop started doing crazy things like The Exorcist, so I had to log out and log back in. So my apologies for that. And thank you for the patience, and thank you also for being the smart women that were able to just take over the panel as I went and handled my issues. So I was saved by Black women, just like the Democratic Party. All right, so everybody, if you could, hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. And by the way, the Women of Wealth Weekend is happening this weekend. And from what I understand, all these ladies are going to be there, and it's going to be really, really great. And if you want to know more, go to womenofwealthweekend.com. That's womenofwealthweekend.com. We got a little video or something sitting around somewhere. I'll show you guys the video so you can kind of check it out. So it is interesting. I mean, when I think about relationships and money, I'm almost thinking that there's at least a couple of aspects to that, right? There is, how do you think about money once you're together in a relationship? How do you think about money when you're together in a marriage, which is a much deeper relationship that has legal ramifications? And then how do you think about money when you're just looking for a partner, looking for a mate? It seems to me, Adrian, that that really understanding yourself and being honest with yourself about what you want and what you don't want could be important, right? Because, if money matters to you, you can't pretend like it doesn't. That's like a man, pretending like, well, no, I really don't like women with curves. I want a woman who doesn't have any curves or whatever, right? Whatever it is that you're attracted to, right? You have to be honest with yourself. So what I've noticed is that it seems to me that there are a lot of people that really kind of want some sort of financial security. And then there are also some people that may even want something more than that. They may want an excessive amount of materialism and all that stuff. So how do you go about dating and kind of being honest with yourself without feeling bad or having people, say, oh, you're a gold digger because these things matter to you? What do you think about that?
I think that just that conversation in terms of where that person's at in their relationship with money and where I'm at, I don't feel any shame in terms of my expectations when it comes to a man's relationship with money. There isn't any, because I think some of the panelists have also agreed, especially if we've been married in our 20s and our relationship, maybe in our 20s and in our 30s, in with money has also changed now that we're established. I think the fact that making sure that it's accessible, making sure that it's generatable, like that it's we have access, because really and truly money can make things easier. Like if you have it and there's a bill that comes up, I have a kid who's in college. Yeah, money is important, right? You know, if they have activities, health insurance, all of that are all connected. So just having those honest conversations is very important. And when I am dating, I am looking for those key words: expensive, broke, um, goals, possibly how they feel about it, career, if they're ambitious. Those are all things. And if we also share the same values.
Okay, interesting. So, Constance, I want to ask you, what are your friends saying? Like when you're sitting and you're talking to your friends about the dating scene, particularly as a black woman, and then you see stuff like, Kamala Harris didn't even marry a black man, right? She married a guy. She married Doug. I don't know if Doug went to Howard or not. I doubt if she met Doug. I don't think she met Doug on the yard at Howard. And so, what do you think? I mean, when you have people that say, these brothers, they just, economically they're struggling. Camel's got the right idea. Like, what do you think? I mean, are you hearing that kind of stuff, or what are you hearing from women when they talk about being on the dating scene?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, when I was like married, I would just look at my single friends and be like, I feel sorry for you. I do not envy you, because I always hear horror stories about being single and about out here looking for, a suitable mate. And I tell you, just even having this conversation is a little bit discouraging, because it just seems like it's so much, especially at this age. And a lot of the friends that I have that, got married so young are kind of in this iteration of their life where they're kind of going through the same things. Because I think, as you change and you grow and you kind of, you want different things. And I think when you're in your 20s, I feel like didn't even really know myself. When I got into my 30s, kind of figured out who I was. And then when I got into my 40s, I kind of figured out, what is it that I really want? But just listening to this conversation and being newly single, and, this is the first time, yesterday was the first time I ever even said that in public. Nobody even out in public even knows, but just thinking about what's out there and the things that you have to navigate through, it just feels so discouraging, because, you got to worry about money and baggage. It's just overwhelming.
It makes sense because bills are due every month. Once a month, that bill is due. So in a relationship, you got to talk about that. Like, even if that's why I think like conflicts and relationships about money is so common, is because every month those bills are due. And what happens if your car breaks down and there's some unexpected crisis? That causes a lot of stress. You can lose your job. Maybe sometimes there's a setback. And it's really nice when you have a partner, if you're in a marriage and you have a partner who you could lean on for help. You can go to each other. Hey, I'm short this month. How are we going to work together to make sure this works? But it's when those unexpected crises happens, they can really cause problems even in a marriage. Yeah. Every month we're going to have to talk about. And I really do encourage a lot of the couples that I see that they need to talk about, they need to have a financial meeting at once a month. You need to sit down and talk about finances. And really, in full disclosure, I think Boyce and I think we talk about money every day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
I mean, I'm a
State of the Union of our relationship in terms of money. We talk about it all the time. And we are very forthright in talking about, this is how much debt I have. This is how much debt you have. And let's strategize, don't we, boys? We strategize on how we can get rid of our debt and how we can work together, because we have financial goals together. And really, when we talk about money every day, it makes me trust Boyce. I trust you more because I know what's going on. Like, I mean, there's things that Boyce is involved in terms of money that has nothing to do with me. So I don't even care about that. But in terms of our relationship and what we do, I really love that we talk about it every day, because it does make me feel secure, that we are on the same page. And really, that keeps our intimacy really close because we're working on that same goal. Wouldn't you say, boys?
Yeah. Well, it was really hard for me to get used to having to talk to somebody about what I was doing in my life. I tend to just go, even in business. I got that Constance Carter in me. I go hard, and it's like and then I tell everyone else to catch up. Like, oh, these are the 5 things I did. So let me brief you on this, and maybe I will, maybe I won't. And you can't live like that, right? You can't live like that as part of a family or as part of a relationship. And but I can definitely say that I think that really what helps is when what helped me anyway was when I felt like the pressure was off. With Alicia being a professional, the compromise I think that men in general have to make and should make is, if a woman has her thing going on, like, you got to completely respect that. And I think some men, especially men that have big egos, who've done a lot of great stuff and conquered a lot of mountains or whatever, feel like, okay, you need to just get up under my umbrella and just sort of be my backup singer. And a lot of women just aren't built for that. Like, they're amazing in their own right. So you have to know how to just step out of the way and know that it ain't all about you, right? But then I also think that the pressure was off in the sense that, the best thing about having money is that we don't really have to stress about money. And it's not a competition on any level. It's not something where we're going to fight over money because, the light bill didn't get paid or whatever. And that helps. And to me, that's an argument in favor of financial security as a catalyst to men wanting to go deeper in relationships. I would not feel comfortable marrying almost anybody if I was struggling and broke. I just wouldn't. It would be as bad as, like, having a disease or something, and you're bringing this financial disease into someone else's life, especially if she's got her shit together. But long before I dated Alicia, I was a grad student, and I mean, I'm talking about struggling, like barely paying the rent every month. And I met this really nice lady who's about 2 years older than me, and she was about that real prime, like ripe for marriage age, about 31. And I think she really liked me. It took me about 10 years later to realize how much she liked me. At the time, I didn't realize it. And she did nothing wrong, right? She did nothing to make me feel awkward or anything like that. But I hung out with her. She had this great. I'm a struggling grad student eating bologna sandwiches. She's got her. She had bought a house. She owned her car. She had this great job and had plenty of money. And on one hand, it's great, right? But on the other hand, you're like, wow, I'm not prepared for this. I was like, well, what can I bring to this? Right now, obviously, that's the wrong approach. I know Alicia. I'm gonna let Alicia talk. She's gonna tell me why there's something wrong with me, and I'm not gonna disagree with her, right? But I think that it was just one of those things where, for men, in order for us to feel attractive, we got to have our stuff together. If your stuff ain't together, you don't feel necessarily worthy of the kind of relationship you'd like to have. Or maybe you'll find somebody else who's struggling just like you. I don't know. That's just the honest to God truth.
I mean, I think like, boys, I think you were just afraid, you know what I mean? That if you didn't have enough money, that you weren't going to make that person happy. And I think, like, boys, here's the thing, like, I've been listening to you talk about love, money, love, money, love, money. And I'm thinking, okay, love, there's a pie. Love, I mean, there's a pie when it comes to love. Money is just a slice of that pie. There's so much more, boys, that you bring to our relationship that is way more than just money. You know what I mean? And it's almost like you're worth more than what's in your bank account. You know what I mean? And so it just did not. And even when we first started dating, I did not know. I had no idea how much money. I thought you were like broke. And it was so much to you, and you are worthy, you are worthy of love, whether you have money or not. And sometimes I want to tell men that there are things that you can offer in a relationship that's not necessarily tied to your worth, and your worth has to be tied to how much money you make, and therefore you're not worthy of love.
Yeah.
I think that what this speaks to really is that so many of us can use therapy, right? Like
Yeah.
all of us. I don't know. Everybody in the chat that's a little bit messed up. Raise your hand. Go. What you say, Constance?
I said, I'm signing up, Dr. Alicia. Where do I sign up?
Yeah. I think we all need therapy because we all got our stuff to work through. And even as I was sitting there talking, I was listening to myself saying, "Oh my God, like what is going on here?" But that's what it was. It was my own sort of insecurity kind of popping up in that situation at that time when I was, 28. And I think one thing I can definitely say in terms of practical advice is that with men, our egos are kind of funny. Like we like our ego and our testosterone is what gives us the courage to go do the things we got to do. And I definitely know for sure if she had been a person who belittled me, even unintentionally, because of where I was financially, that would make me walk away, And I did know I had a friend who was like a high flying corporate type, making big money, killing in corporate America. And she was married to a man who was he worked for the post office. And she actually confessed that she would bring that powerhouse, like persona, that big, strong corporate persona home sometimes and would make him feel bad because he was just the guy who delivered, with the post office. And then she finds out that he's got 2 or 3 girlfriends like all throughout the city. And she wondered if any of that had to do with, I don't know. Again, you can't excuse his behavior, right? But he would, he'd be having a thing going on with a hairstylist and some, other women that were on his level in that way professionally. And it was almost like screw you, like you're the boss lady in the house, but I'm going to be the man somewhere else. And I do think that making a man feel small is probably not a good idea. I don't know. What do y'all think about that? Did I sound like a sexist pig asshole when I said that?
No, you're absolutely right about that. I've learned about the male ego. Women should never cross a male's ego. So I've gotten to a point now where even if I don't agree with a man, I'm just like, just leave it alone. But I agree with you.
But that almost seems a little oppressive, though, right? I mean, and unfair, right? I mean, if you're smart and you have something to say, why can't you say it? Why would you have to?
Because it bruises the man's ego. Now, I'm going to say this. I think it's more of, I think it's, when I go back to the thing about us taking on so much, I also feel like sometimes our men put so much on the woman to help them heal or from their trauma. I like the fact that you brought up therapy because I think that's going to be huge for us to help in this relationship divide we have between Black men and Black women. I think, white supremacy has a big role to play with our man's bruised ego, whether, men want to admit it or not, because of all that history that they've been through for 465 years. That's a lot, and even with the Black women, I'm not saying that Black women don't have things to work on either, because we both have experienced this trauma that we have throughout history, kind of like what Dr. Alicia had stated. And so that trauma carries to us. Like she was talking about, like you grew up where you were in a house and you didn't have what you needed, or maybe you experienced that in life and you carry it on through maybe your relationships, or even when you really have enough, but you still think you don't have enough. That's a mindset thing that you have to really work through, and that trauma's there. So I think bruising that ego has a lot to do with what they have experienced on this land.
Interesting. Ego. So how do we, I personally wonder if I heard somebody make a statement where they said that the war on women is over and women won, and that women are winning. And I think that I feel like, from my perspective, I feel like I feel like Black women are winning, right? Educationally winning, professionally winning. Do you feel like Black women are winning? What do you think, Adrienne?
Statistically, are you just talking about like people are just saying that, or statistically? Because statistically, it's a lot more going on than what meets the eye, right? Because I know that we are the highest education group, but we still are. I think the wages are still very low. I noticed that I just read a report talking about a lot of the Black women had got laid off during the pandemic. A lot of women households are suffering right now. So, I think it depends on, are you just looking at the things, or are you actually looking at statistics? Because I know that it was an article that came out, was about a couple years ago, talking about how many Black women had built businesses, but the net worth was like, what, $10 or something. So, are you talking are we talking about hypothetical, or are we talking about the real numbers? Because I'm a statistic queen. So which one are we talking about?
You know what? I think we just make it look good. We just make everything look good. I have an office and I have this beautiful view on the water, and I see the ducks out there. They're just looking beautiful. This is Black women, but underneath they're doing this.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Right? So that is a representation of how we are. We work hard. We got to run harder, run faster, jump higher. We have to be excellence in action on everything that we do. And then we have to make it look good. It's not easy. We just make it look good.
Wow.
Throw something in here.
Okay.
Just out of
Please, go
curiosity.
ahead.
All right. So I have been on my quest to making sure I'm being the most feminine woman that I can possibly be. One thing I've really started to do is making sure I'm hearing what the opposite sex is saying, because I'm not a man. I don't understand their experiences, and I hear the horror stories on that side regarding dating and love and relationships and everything else. One of the questions that comes up a lot is, should Black women be more understanding in terms of dating and understanding that her counterpart may not be where she is just due to the way that he was grown up, the expectations or whatever. What do you guys think about that?
What do you think? I bet Alicia has something to say about some of that. I saw Adrian's hand go up, so we'll go with you. Go ahead, please.
So I think that it's just the creating that safe space of communication is very, very important. And I want to say, just I'm learning to listen more. And be more compassionate. Those are great qualities in order to maybe soothe or be supportive of where a man is in his journey. Those are important things. And as far as winning, if statistically we're winning, I still think that we still have a long ways to go in terms of maybe are we winning in love, because that's also important. That's not statistically necessarily measured, but I don't know if we're necessarily holistically winning in that area. But I would say, as far as creating a safe space, I love that. I do that with my sons. I do that even with my ex-husband, right? Because we co-parent, just creating that where we have this friendship, and I think that could also be used in a relationship.
Winning in love. I wonder what that. It seems like that can mean different things for different people, right? I mean, are we even making a false assumption by assuming that every Black woman in her 30s or 40s wants to be married? Is that a bad assumption to make? Because when you talk about relationships, there are lots of ways to have another human being in your bed if that's what you want, right? That's not hard to do. But getting a person to commit to staying in your bed and staying there for long periods of time seems to be a different standard. So do you think that there are some people who are just even questioning the whole idea of saying, like, I'm only speaking, I'm probably a little biased, because when I got about 35, I remember thinking, wait, I always grew up thinking that I had to be married by now, but I don't. And it's okay. I can get used to some of this, right? So it wasn't like I wrote marriage off. It was just more like I said, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, that's great too. Do you think that women see it the same way as men, or do you think that there's like an issue here? What do you think?
I would say that women are definitely changing the tune now, especially if they've already been married, especially if they already have children. I think they are. I know me, myself, I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm just like, it is what it is. Whatever happens, happens. I personally don't want to live with someone unless I'm married. I've only lived with one man in my entire life, and that is my ex-husband. So for me, that's just important, that if we're not getting married, then we're not commingling anything. But I think I have started the process to redefining, like, all right, do I really need to be with someone? Does it need to be you? You know what I mean? I'm starting to think twice about that for myself. And I do see other women doing the same thing.
She's picking and choosing.
Okay, so Dr. Alicia, you had something you wanted to say earlier?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say something about Black women and overworking. You know what I mean? And again, like, we learned that a lack of money equals pain, and that it must be avoided at all costs, even if it means you got to work yourself down to the bone. I got to work this full-time job. I need to work this part-time job. I need to work. And again, that always happens when you grow up struggling with money, and maybe there was periods of unemployment. I also want to talk about when you said you've learned, I don't know who that was, that said they learned to listen more. And I think, like, money is so tied to this issue of control, and no one wants to be around someone who's controlling the money. And I think that we as Black women, we need to be really concerned about how much pressure we put on our spouses or our partner about money, say, putting a lot of pressure on them, or expecting them to spend money in the way that you spend money. Sometimes it may be different than you. And so that was what I wanted to add to that voice.
Okay, interesting. Well, everybody, in case you just came in, speaking with some really smart Black women about love and money, pretty much, and the struggles of dealing with love and money. And I want to mention the names of the panelists as you hit the thumbs up button. We got Adrienne Treese, who is the CEO and founder of DNA Financial; Constance Carter, the CEO and founder of Catalyst Real Estate; Ronique West, president of the Greater Augusta Black Chamber of Commerce; Rebecca Samuel, CEO and founder of Pythagoras LLC; and Dr. Alicia, the cutest Black woman in a 10,000-mile radius in my eyes of boys. In my eyes, not that everybody else ain't beautiful. All y'all great, but I got eyes for one lady. I gotta do that. So let's finish with just a couple final thoughts, and then I'd like to let every panelist kind of share their final closing thought. The reason I think these conversations are important is because relationships are critical for any sort of building that you're trying to do. If you're trying to build any sort of, anything in terms of wealth or family, things like that, it helps to have healthy relationships because you have a teammate, and if you have a constructive teammate, then you can do a whole lot more than you would do with a destructive teammate or with no teammate at all. Yeah. And also, I make the argument, and I'd like to get each person's response on this, but I make the argument that that relationship building, especially for a community that's kind of gone through some trauma like us, has to be very, very intentional. Like to the point where you're reading books about it, watching videos about it, getting therapy, getting help on this. Because that's what I found. I found that there were times where, because of my trauma or because of hurt feelings from childhood or issues, insecurities or whatever, I would destroy relationships because of that. Because it's easier if you abort the relationship before it's even born, before it grows into anything, then you're not going to get hurt that way, right? And so I would like to make the argument, or so that we can walk away learning something from this conversation, that perhaps that's part of it. Right? Like for example, if your goal is to get married or whatever, there are ways that people can carry themselves that make them a more attractive option for marriage, and there are books written on this stuff, and there are, people out there that can give you good feedback and things like that. And I encourage people that want something, that have a goal in relationships. Don't just hope that it's going to happen. Like, don't just, I'm not a believer in assuming that if you just do whatever you want to do and you just are whoever you want to be, whenever you want to be that person. I don't know if that's going to work. I think it's sort of like anything else. It's like if you go work for Amazon and you want to be the next vice president at Amazon, there's some skills you have to pick up, a process you want to understand, right? A way you want to carry yourself professionally, right? So what do you think about that in terms of just saying, okay, if my goal is to have a certain kind of relationship, I'm going to study that process as much as I studied, science in school. What do you think?
I agree. I absolutely agree. It's about mastery, understanding the way. Number one, the most important relationship, the one with yourself, right? You want to make sure that you're studying yourself. But I wholeheartedly agree into diving in and understanding the way that your potential mate could be possibly made up in their mind, and completely can support that. Yeah, you have to study and read.
Okay, study and read. All right, which also seems to say that you want to, if you're a studier and a reader, you'd want to get a partner who studies and reads, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Or if you're a person who's okay with getting therapy, it kind of sucks if your partner's like, well, I'm not going to do therapy. I don't want to do that, right? That's not a good teammate. Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like what Adrienne is saying is that you should know yourself. And like I said, and on other panels, is that make a list of the attributes that you want to have a mate. Take five things that you want, 5 attributes that you want in a mate, and then you become those attributes. And then, of course, that will attract that person to you. And so that's what happened to me. You know, I've used it, I've practiced it in my own life, and that's what's happened. So yeah, for sure. I mean, those are the things that you want to become. If you want someone who's trustworthy, you be trustworthy. If you want someone who's honest, you become honest. If you want someone that's open, you become open. If you want someone that's fun loving, you become fun loving, adventurous, all of those things, you become those and do those things. And in those spaces is where you will find your soulmate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, oh, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead, please.
I was gonna say, kind of this sentiment what Adrian and Dr. Alicia say. Self-knowledge is a superpower. Also self-healing, right? Healing yourself, going back, addressing your childhood trauma or whatever trauma it may be for you. Because I feel like as you heal, like energy, like I think it was Adrian said, everything's energy. So whatever energy you're putting out, that's the energy you're also attracting. So remember that. And then your discernment is higher also when you have healed. Like you could, like she said, she kind of listens to how they talk about money and so forth. And then you're listening. So if you're addressing that trauma, whatever it may be from your childhood or whatever, then that also helps to attract who you want in your life. And I like the fact, Boyce, that you brought up, not everybody wants to be married, because not everybody wants to be married. We might have experienced that in our first half of life. I know like the first half of my life, I was in relationships, married, everything. Now I'm like at a different stage. My daughter's grown, you know, she's been out the house for 7 years. You know, I'm in a whole different segment in life. So now I'm kind of like, okay, what do I want, you know, and a partner and a mate? First, I want to just really learn myself as much as possible and just love myself. And then whoever comes in that is able to, you know, add to that, or, you know, I can add to them, but it's an equal give and take. You know, have you healed from your childhood trauma? You know what your triggers are, because we all have triggers and nobody's perfect, but do you even understand what they are? Because that, to me, I like the emotional intelligence part. I think is going to be the hugest thing for me than the money part, just to be honest, because I can tell he's a high earning man, but they're emotionally unavailable. They haven't addressed some things, you know, and you can tell immediately, especially when you've done your work. For me, that's going to be one of the big ones. And then one book that I would suggest for anybody that wants to kind of read one is called What Mama Couldn't Tell Us About Love. It was written by two therapists, and it connects the dots between what we experienced through slavery until now and how we may be doing some things, and has a lot of great things in it for you to do too. So while we talk about reading and studying, I love reading and studying. I do believe if you want to get better in certain areas, you want to read and study those things as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that slavery thing did a number on us. A lot of us come from families where crazy things happen. I've had to address it with myself. And I think that the best thing that I learned over time is that, if you approach the relationship kind of realizing that you've got some imperfections that you want to improve on so you can be a better fit for the person that you love. And if they're willing to sort of consider the same idea, then you can kind of work on that healing together. I know that Alicia and I, but as preventative maintenance, we started, talking to somebody about our relationship just to, work through things like just to avoid problems. Because when I saw, like to me, the word commitment, I feel like as a society, I don't think we even know what the word commitment means. I really don't. In my mind, I heard a pastor say one time, he said, if my wife ever leaves, I'm going with her. She ever leaves, I'll be like, baby, where are we going? Where are we going? And I said, I like that, because I grew up in a household that was built on conviction, but you do something, you say you're going to do something, you stick with it. And that's also important because the family is an institution, and I think that here's the thing. If you're trying to have that level of conviction with someone that doesn't match that level of conviction, I don't know how that's going to work. Like that New Edition song, Can You Stay in the Rain? Like, that's a big question I asked Alicia. She didn't know I was asking her that question, but I watched her behavior to determine, okay, is she gonna be able to work through the rough patches, or is she gonna bounce up, pack up, and run the first sign of trouble? Like we can't do that because if we're gonna do this, we need to really do this. If we're gonna do it, that's fine. So anyway, I'd like to ask everybody on the panel if you could maybe give like a quick little, or maybe 60 to 90 second like closing remark, so we can all walk away smarter, better Black people. We'll start with you, Miss Treese. You are a special guest today, and I hope that you'll come back. You are welcome to come back. So, Adrian Treese, CEO of DNA Financial, what will be your closing remark?
As it relates to this topic, I completely believe still money is an energy. I also believe in the philosophy of self-love. And if you're looking to find me, you can look for me on Instagram. I'm at the Adrian Trice. And I actually share some of these philosophies in an upcoming platform that I'll be creating under the Adrian Trice brand. So I look forward to, of course, being here again when invited back, and look forward to this Saturday's event.
Yes, the Women of Wealth Weekend. All right, Miss Constance Carter, any closing remarks to help us that we can learn from today, from this conversation?
Well, I'll tell you, I came in knowing less than what I'm leaving out knowing. So I came in learning a whole lot. And that's the beautiful thing about these panels. And I love just gleaning from all the brilliance with all the ladies. Everyone had something great to say. The thing that my takeaway, like I said before, money does not matter. It's really about the values. And what I do understand is that a lot of men place their value in the money that they make, and they need to make something. It doesn't have to be as much as you make, but it should be something, because then it makes them feel more, say, worthy of just being a man. Being intentional about your relationship, doing different things. And I one relationship, married, one person since I was 15. So I had to kind of learn these things as I grew up. We grew up together. And as you mature, you start seeing things a lot differently. But for me, within our relationship, it was never an issue of me telling him that this is mine, I make this. It was never that. We never had those issues. It was always ours. But for him, I do realize that he needed something of his own to make him feel more secure within the marriage. And that could be detrimental in a lot of ways. So, and it manifests in other ways as well,
Wow. Okay, so Miss Rebecca Samuels, your parting thoughts?
I would just say everyone needs to be a little bit more open-minded, because I know, again, as a woman, a lot of women tend to agree with me and my thoughts, and that's based off of stuff that we all talk about. We all have common experiences, but something I've definitely learned over the last year is just trying to understand where our counterparts are coming from, and definitely understanding the background and how they got to where they got to. And I don't feel like Black women should necessarily need to settle in love, but I definitely think we need to be a little bit more open-minded in trying to bring the pieces together, and hoping it works out for all of us.
All right. Miss Ronique West, what say you?
I feel like I said a lot in the last segment, maybe my gems. I would say that being okay just to open up. I think with our man, and I'll kind of leave this message to our man. We want you to heal. We want you to become who you should be. We need you, regardless of what a lot of Black women may be stating out there. So what I would love to see is just more openness of you getting the work. You doesn't have to be out in the open, doesn't have to be in public or whatever, but just maybe start, going to therapy, start asking questions of men that you see have maybe figured out some things, etc. Because it is women out here that will support you. So that would be the last thought I would leave with.
Okay. Dr. Alicia, your
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what everybody has said today. I think that the biggest takeaway, and it's a common theme among all of us on this panel, is that when you're in a relationship, you need to create an atmosphere of acceptance and love, so that you're without judgment, so that your partner feels comfortable sharing their debt, sharing their fears with money, and to know that it has to be a partnership. Everybody needs to know about the financial status of the relationship, where money is going, when it's coming out, making financial decisions together. And when you have a financial agreement in a relationship, stick to that agreement, stick to the budget of what is agreed upon. Because if not, you'll end up seeing me in couples therapy, because there was a lot of resentment that's attached to that. And so create financial goals together, and that's how you build intimacy and trust.
All right. Well, everybody, do me a favor. Please give a digital thank you to our panelists for joining us tonight. They are actually going to be at the Women of Wealth Weekend, which starts on the 30th. And the URL is womenofwealthweekend.com. And there's actually 20 amazing Black women that are going to be there and doing great things. And I know Vicky Dillard's also going to be there, and Lene Javette, and a lot of great people. And so I won't be there because when women are speaking, I believe men need to be quiet. And so I won't be there, but the ladies will be doing their thing. So let me just kind of leave with a quick thought here. Here's what I would say, you know, as a man, and I don't even know if Alicia's going to agree or disagree with everything that I say, because we don't have the same brain. We are different people. We complement each other for sure. But I believe that money does matter for a man. I think that there's something that men and women are not the same. I think that there are things that men expect from women that we don't expect from ourselves. There are things that women expect from men that many women don't expect from themselves, right? But everybody's different. And so there has to be room for diversity, right? But also, I think we have to find our clarity and find our truth. And finding that clarity and truth is not going to be found in the bowl, in the incarceration of political correctness, right? I think political correctness, among many things, leads us astray. You know, there are these false narratives fed through media that Black men ain't crap, that, you know, Black women are this and that and the other, right? Y'all know that. And people get caught up in that. That's why, for example, on the internet, you have lots of people who love to just go on the web and so they can jump into a pool of toxic energy and talk about how terrible Black women are or how terrible Black men are. And those are not the people who are going to build the future. Those are not the people who are going to be successful. And so I believe anybody who wants to find that kind of success in relationships has to get off the grid. You have to be very deliberate, very intentional about studying yourself, starting with knowledge of self. I think Ranique hit on that first, and then everyone else definitely has something to say on that. Knowledge of self. What do you want? Be honest with yourself. It's okay, right? Like, don't worry. So what? If they call you a gold digger, whatever, who cares, right? Money does matter. Studies show that money matters to women for emotional security, and it matters to men as well. But then also, once you decide what you want and what you like, then I think that there is a process of positioning yourself to get what you want, right? I don't think anybody's gonna just want to be with you just because you're there or love you just exactly the way you are all the time, especially when you're at your worst. Like I know Alicia loves me, but I will never, she could say it all day, but I will never believe that she will want to be with me if I decided I wanted to be an abusive prick every day and not love her and not talk to her and mistreat her and ignore her. I don't think that will work. So you know what? When it comes to that Black woman, I'm on my best behavior because I know that I want to do well in this relationship. I don't want to mess it up, right? So I think that that positioning yourself to attract the kind of person you want and being intentional about it. There are processes to do that well. And then also, once you're together, learning how to protect and preserve that relationship. I think the inability to resolve conflicts in a healthy way is one of the number one wealth drainers in the Black community, because you got children being born where the parents are broken up before the baby's born. You know, the inability to get along and to resolve conflicts will cost you in every way, because you've not only lost somebody that could be a teammate, but now you're doing it by yourself, and you might actually be trying to do it while you're fighting with another person. And that's, you can't, it's hard to compete that way. So I encourage people to study relationships, read books like George Frazier's book, Success Runs in Our Race. It's not a dating book, but it's a book about how to maintain and nurture relationships with people. And if you've ever met George Frazier, Constance and I met through George Frazier, you'll know George Frazier is the best in the world at maintaining tons of relationships with lots of people, which is the key to his wealth, right? So study these things, and that will help you succeed in life at the ultimate success, not just money. Who cares about money? We're talking about happiness. We're talking about bliss. We're talking about finding whatever freedom and happiness and success means to you. And it goes far beyond money. So that's my 2 cents. That's my closing remark. Thank you guys for listening. And thank you to the panelists. I want to say everybody's name real quick. We got Constance Carter from Catalyst Real Estate, Adrian Treese from DNA Financial, Ranique West from the president of the Greater Augusta Black Chamber of Commerce, Rebecca Samuels, founder of Pythagoras LLC, and Dr. Alicia, my sweetie. We're about to go running. So y'all have a good night. Thank you guys very much.
Dr. Alicia, I'm going to call you. Dr. Alicia.